consumers appearing to be taking their foot off the discretionary gas pedal as they are focused more on buying essentials. But what does that mean for this holiday season? Well, according to travel booking site Hopper, this year is expected to be the busiest holiday travel season in at least 4 years, with the average domestic round-trip airfare around Thanksgiving costing consumers about $268. That's off about 10% from what consumers were paying last year. So let's bring in Hopper lead economist Hayley Berg to discuss that and more. Hayley, so when you see a drop in airfare prices, you obviously would think demand is going to rise, but it's a tough environment right now. Many consumers are pulling back on some of those discretionary purchases. How do you see that affecting holiday travel?
We're still expecting a very busy holiday season. If anything, the prices we're seeing now, not just for Thanksgiving, but also Christmas, are a good sign for consumers in terms of their ability to fit in those trips home for the holidays. We're still seeing strong demand, expecting about 15% more passengers to be flying over Thanksgiving, very similar number for Christmas. So hopefully the price relief we're seeing will enable travelers to get in those holiday trips with a little bit of money to spare compared to last year where prices were incredibly high coming off of very expensive summer travel.
Is it price relief over the same kind of travel days? And I asked that specifically kind of looking at if you were traveling, say, the day before or 2 days before Thanksgiving, that might be more expensive than traveling the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And perhaps some consumers out there might be playing with the toggles a little bit more here to try and figure out what the best days to travel are. Have you seen any massive shift in what that time span is looking like?
We've definitely seen a shift in those most popular dates to travel. It's small, but it's there. And it's not just driven by price sensitivity, but definitely some incremental flexibility travelers have now in a more remote work focused workplace. So though Tuesday and Wednesday next week and Sunday will be the busiest days to travel to and from Thanksgiving, we're also seeing a high volume of travelers departing today, tomorrow, Sunday and Monday for Thanksgiving. And we expect to see the same at Christmas. So increased flexibility definitely is one of the drivers of why people are traveling on some of these alternate dates. But price is another driver. We recommend at Hopper travelers to fly on those lower demand dates to get the lowest prices. You can save about 20 to 40% off your airfare if you go on one of those low demand dates. So it's a great way to optimize your budget.
Hayley, in terms of where people are booking, where they're heading this holiday season, how's that compare to some of the trends that you saw last year?
Thanksgiving is a very domestic focused holiday. So we're seeing big cities, New York, Orlando, Los Angeles. Those are most popular. We're also seeing Caribbean, those more regional, short international flights are popular. But on the whole, the biggest shift from last year to this year is more of a focus on international travel. It's more accessible this year. Prices have come down considerably from last year, especially for those warm weather destinations. So we'll definitely be seeing more passengers grabbing their passports this Thanksgiving season.
I mean, look, I have some family that's from the Caribbean. We might need to move Thanksgiving celebrations there in the future. It sounds like that's a poppin' destination, party in the Caribbean. Anyway, as we continue to think about what this spells out going into next year, some of these year-over-year comps are going to be particularly interesting to figure out if we see kind of normalization in prices, because if we're kind of looking back to the CPI data even that came out this week, there was some moderation lower in the airfare prices. Do we expect that to continue?
We do. Right now, domestic prices have reached what we're considering a normal level coming out of the pandemic, and we expect them to stay that way into 2024. The biggest shift we hope to see next year is on those international routes. Think Europe and Asia, top two regions for American travelers. Prices have seen relief, but we need to see more. A lot of that relief will come from higher supply, especially on the trans-Pacific routes. Airlines are still rebuilding there. But really, we expect domestic prices to stay low for consumers and hope to see more relief on the international fares.
Hayley, what does the timing look like in terms of some of that relief that you're hoping to see for international routes?
The good news is we're already seeing it. Take European flights, for example, down to about $700 or $800 round trip now compared to over $1,400 this summer. We expect that to continue into next year. The linchpin for Asia is going to be adding back capacity, airlines adding more flights. Right now, that's the biggest driver of high prices. That's compounded a bit by higher jet fuel prices. But on the whole, we need to see more capacity added back on those routes, especially into China, in order to see prices come down. Right now, airfare to Tokyo, for example, over $1,400. Typically, we would see that closer to about $1,000. So we're looking for pretty major price relief, but I would estimate that we'll see that by the end of 2024 if that capacity can come back.
Just lastly, while we have you here, I mean, this is without a massive resurgence in corporate travel. If we do see just a jolt of corporate travel re-enter into the equation, how much could that actually not or kind of keep some of these airline prices from actually moderating lower, as we've been talking about for much of this conversation, knowing that if corporate travel just has to get there, then they're just going to pay what they need to?
Absolutely. We've seen a slow resurgence of corporate travel since mid to late 2021. And it's really been a story of slow and steady compared to leisure travel, which came back with a vengeance at the beginning of last year. If we saw a dramatic shift in corporate travelers suddenly picking up travel in 2024, it could put some upward pressure on prices. But more than anything, I think we'd see those business and first class selling out faster. So probably pushing more consumers towards premium and main cabin. That would not put as much upward pressure, especially on those longer haul international routes. But I believe what we're hearing from airlines now is, depending on the routes, corporate travel can be back as much as 80%. So there isn't all that much more to grow. But if we do see a big surge, could impact prices in some of those higher cabin classes, where right now a lot of leisure travelers are booking. Those business travelers come back, there'll be more competition.
All right, Hayley Berg, always great to get your insight. Thanks so much for joining us here. Hopper's Lead Economist. Thanks, Hayley.
Great being with you.